Hello everyone, it's Grandpa Ron here again. I hope you're all well and happy today. Now we're going to continue with our very basic Bible study in the book of Exodus. We're calling a slice of truth, and see where God's Word leads us today. Remember last time we looked at chapter 12, the tremendous miracle that God performed in killing the firstborn of all of the Egyptian families and all of their herds, got the Pharaoh and the Egyptian people to the point where they basically just pushed the Israelis out. Please go, just leave before any more of us die. And that's as God had predicted. He had told Moses right at the outset, before he ever returned to Egypt, that this was going to happen, that Pharaoh's heart was hard and he was going to harden it even more, and that it was only going to be through coercion that he would let the people of Israel go. And that's true. That's exactly what happened. So now they're leaving, and God saved miraculously the firstborn of the Israeli families by giving them instruction, remember, to put blood on the doorpost, and that would be a sign for the Lord to pass over that particular house. And so miraculously the Egyptians suffered these deaths of their firstborn, but the Israelis did not. And this was a great deliverance for them to finally leave their position of slavery in Egypt, head back toward the promised land, as God reminds them of over and over. So let's see what happens in chapter 13 as they are literally pushed out of Egypt. 13 verse 1. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Sanctify to me every firstborn, the first offspring of every womb among the sons of Israel, both of man and beast. It belongs to me. Basically, God is saying, I saved firstborn, and they belong to me. I rescued them, they belong to me. And he says, I want you to remember this. I'm going to give you a series of things for you to do to memorialize the great miracle that I performed. And when it says, I want you to sanctify to me, that means set apart, set them apart to me, every firstborn. Verse 3, And Moses said to the people, Remember this day in which you went out from Egypt, from the house of slavery, for by the powerful hand of the Lord brought you out from this place, and nothing leavened shall be eaten. Nothing leavened. That was looked at as like a contamination, a symbol of contamination. Remember, they ate unleavened bread the night of the Passover. They ate it hurriedly because something was going to happen. They might have to leave quickly. Verse 4, On this day in the month of Abib you are about to go forth. And it shall be when the Lord brings you to the land of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, which he swore to your fathers to give to you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall observe this rite in this month. So he's not only telling them what he wants them to do, but when. And every year at this same time, they are to go through this ceremony. Verse 6, For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a feast to the Lord. Unleavened bread shall be eaten throughout 7 days, and nothing leavened shall be seen among you, nor shall any leaven be seen among you in all your borders. And you shall tell your son on that day, It is because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt. So this is memorializing the events of the Passover and the deliverance of the children of Israel out of Egypt. Verse 9, And it shall serve as a sign to you on your hand and as a reminder on your forehead, that the law of the Lord may be in your mouth. For with a powerful hand the Lord brought you out of Egypt. Therefore you shall keep this ordinance at its appointed time from year to year. Now this reference here to a reminder on your forehead and on your hand, most people think that is figurative in nature. This going through this ceremony is going to be like an obvious sign from you. It's going to give you opportunity to tell what this means, what it stands for, and but some people take it literally. A lot of, especially Hasidic Jews, take this literally, and they actually wear headbands and things on their wrists to show what happened. The Lord got pretty tired of this. In the New Testament, he talks about how they just use this for show, to get attention to themselves, not really to memorialize what happened. That saddened the Lord, I'm sure, because the intent was to glorify God and memorialize what God did, not to draw attention to people. Verse 11. Now it shall come about when the Lord brings you to the land of the Canaanite, as he swore to you and to your fathers, and gives it to you, that you shall devote to the Lord the first offspring of every womb and the first offspring of every beast that you own. The males belong to the Lord. But every first offspring of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb. But if you do not redeem it, then you shall break its neck, and every firstborn of the man among your sons you shall redeem. Of course, redeem means to buy back with a price. In other words, I own these, like we mentioned before. I saved them, they're mine, you can redeem them. Now, redeeming the children that talked about here would be in the form of maybe a piece of silver to the temple, something like that, symbolic in nature. Verse 14, and it shall be when your son asks you in time to come, saying, what is this? Then you shall say to him, with a powerful hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt from the house of slavery. And it came about when Pharaoh was stubborn about letting us go, that the Lord killed every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of beast. Therefore I sacrifice to the Lord the males, the first offspring of every womb, but every firstborn of my sons I redeem. So it shall serve as a sign on your hand and as phylacteries on your forehead, for with a powerful hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt. He's summarizing again and telling, this is what they're to tell their sons when they're asked, what is all this about? What is all this about? God saved us. He saved the firstborn, and so I owe you to the Lord. I owe this to the Lord. The firstborn of the flocks, I'm going to sacrifice to the Lord. If I don't sacrifice it to the Lord, I'm going to redeem it in the way that's outlined here. I'm redeeming you in the way that's outlined because of what the Lord did back in that day. Verse 17, now it came about when Pharaoh had let the people go that God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, even though it was near. For God said, lest the people change their mind when they see war, and they return to Egypt. The direct route to the promised land would have gone through territory containing a couple of dangers. One is the Egyptians had fortifications and stuff, because this is the same route that invading armies would take from the north coming down into Egypt. So they had forts and outposts and soldiers along that route. That could have been troublesome. In addition, once you get through that into the land of the Philistines, there was animosity between the Philistines and the Jews, and there would likely have been war immediately with them. God doesn't lead them directly that way. And some people say, well, if God is powerful, he's done all these miracles, why doesn't he just lead them that way and defeat all these enemies miraculously? And the answer to that is, as we'll see as we go along, that the Israelis aren't ready yet. God has to go through a lot of steps to galvanize them into a cohesive people. They're to be the chosen people, but they're not really galvanized yet. They're really not cohesive enough yet. Part of this, these ceremonies that he's outlined previously in this very chapter are to help galvanize them, to remind them as they grow as a nation, as they multiply, of what God has done and God's power, and to galvanize them as a people, strengthen them as a people, get them to be of one mind and following the Lord, because he chose them to be his witness. They're to be a blessing. We're going to see that doesn't work out all the time because of their rebellion and attitudes from time to time, but that's the Lord's intent. So he's going through this galvanizing process and not leading them directly into the promised land. Verse 18, hence God led the people around the way of the wilderness to the Red Sea, and the sons of Israel went up in martial array from the land of Egypt. Martial array would be almost military formations, lined up in groups, and don't know exactly how they were organized personally, but I know scholars have looked at this, but it's almost like a military array. They went out. Verse 19, and Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, saying, God shall surely take care of you, and you shall carry my bones from here with you. So they're living up to what Joseph had told them to do. Verse 20, then they set out from Succoth and camped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. And the Lord was going before them in a pillar of cloud by day to lead them on the way, and in a pillar of fire by night to give them light, that they might travel by day and by night. And it goes on to say, he did not take away the pillar of cloud by day, nor the pillar of fire by night from before the people. Most scholars believe this was one pillar. At the daytime it appeared as a cloud. At night it glowed and provided light. It was same cloud, not two clouds. So they could travel by day and night. Remember, we've got millions of people here. And I don't know if this is correct, this is my opinion, but what I visualize is kind of a leapfrog effect. You had some people, they would travel, stop, other people behind them would pass through, continue to go. Is almost like a inchworm kind of thing, where there's constant movement. Some traveling at night, some traveling during the day, kind of leapfrogging over each other, passing through. And this cloud was miraculously providing guidance and illumination for them. We're going to stop there today. Next time, we're going to see some tremendous miracles. Some consider the greatest miracle in all these events take place. Here we see the attempted galvanization process starting, and we'll continue next week and see what happens to strengthen their faith in the Lord even more through some tremendous miracles. I hope this has been understandable to you and meaningful, and I hope you'll watch the next one. Until then, God bless. Bye-bye.